Okay guys, so welcome to today physics reading class. So in this reading class we're going to be diving through I'm going to be diving through 2024 WAEC physics question and answer. Okay, if you're just joining us for the first time, do it to subscribe, like, also turn the button in case you're helping us like this. You don't be the first one notified. So if you're just joining us, you don't know the way we used to conduct our reading class. This is how it's being done. So what we just have to do, I will share with you each question. Okay, what just is for you to read the question and pick your own option. Okay, pick your own option of result that is best as the answer to each question, and after 30 seconds I'll drop the correct option. I get done. That is how we used to do it every time we come to the class like this. So in case you need this past question, you can let me know in the comment section. By say past question, I will direct you how to download this past question. This past question is very okay. It's very okay. In case you need this past question, let me know in the comment section. So let's go and let's dive to it. This is 2024 WAEC physics past question and answer. So we're going to dive into the objective part of it. So shall we go? So let's start. Now let me zoom it out for you for clean view and for clear and clean view. So let's read the question one. Start with the question one. Put yourself in silent and start with question one. Pick your own correct option. I will draw up mine immediately after 30 seconds. The correct option to question 1 is option B. Is option B. So let's move to the question 2. Let's move to the question 2. Pick the correct option to question 2. The correct option to question 2 is option B. So let's dive to question 3. The correct option to question 3 is option B. So let's dive to question 4. The correct option to question 4 is option A. So let's dive to question 5. The correct option to question 5 is option D. So let's dive to question 6. So let me zoom it in. Can study the diagram very well. So let me share with you the options under the question 6. So this is the option, and that is the remaining question. The correct option to question 6 is option B. So let's move to question 7. The correct option to question 7 is option D. So let's move to question 8. The correct option to question 8 is option A. So let's move to question 9. The correct option to question 9 is option C. So let's move to question 10. Trying to zoom in. The correct option to question 10 is option A. So let's move to question 11. The correct option to question 11 is option A. So let's move to question 12. The correct option to question 12 is option C. So let's move to question 13. Correct option to question 13 is option A. So let's move to question 14. The correct option to question 14 is option A. So let's move to question 15. The correct option to question 15 is option A. So let's move to question 16. Correct option to question 16 is option D. So let's move to question 17. The correct option to question 17 is option B. So let's move to question 18. The correct option to question 18 is option A. So let's turn to question 19. Let me zoom it in so you can see the full question. The correct option to question 19 is option D. So question 20. The correct option to question 20 is option B. So let's move to question 21. This question 21, there is error in the question. So let's move to question 22. Let's move to question 22. So let me zoom in so you can see the full question clear. The correct option to question 22 is option C. So let's move to question 23. The correct option to question 23 is option A. So let's move to question 24. The correct option to question 24 is option C. So let's move to question 25. Let me zoom it out. The correct option to question 25 is option A. Question 26. The correct option to question 26 is option D. So let's move to question 27. Let me zoom it in to see the question. The correct option to question 27 is option A. So let's move to question 28. So let me share with you the options of question 28. The correct option to question 28 is option C. So let's move to question 29. The correct option to question 29 is option B. So let's move to question 30. The correct option to question 30 is option D. '31. Correct option to question 31 is option C. Let's move to question 32. The correct option to question 32 is option D. So let's move to question 33. The correct option to question 33 is option C. So let's move to question 34. The correct option to question 34 is option C. So let's move to question 35. The correct option to question 35 is option D. So let's move to question 36. The correct option to question 36 is option D. So let's move to question 37. The correct option to question 37 is option D. So let's move to question 38. Let me share with you the options. The correct option to question 38 is option A. So let's move to question 39. The correct option to question 39 is option D. So let's move to question 40. The correct option to question 40 is option A. So let's move to question 41. The correct option to question 41 is option B. So let's move to question 42. The correct option to question 42 is option C. So let's move to question 43. The correct option to question 43 is option A. So let's move to question 44. Correct option to question 44 is option B. So let's move to question 45. The correct option to question 45 is option A. So let's move to question 46. The correct option to question 46 is option D. So let's move to question 47. Let me share with you the remaining option to question 47. The correct option to question 47 is option A. So let's move to question 48. The correct option to question 48 is option B. So let's move to question 49. The correct option to question 49 is option D. So let's move to question 50, which is the last question for this objective of the 2024 physics WAEC past question and answer. So let me try to zoom it out for you guys can see it. The correct option to question 50 is option D. So these have come the end of this today reading class for this oncoming for this 2024 WAEC physics past question and answer. So we have the theory. We have the theory. So in case you need the past question, you can let me know in the comment section. So in the next class, that's the first two, we will dive into this theory. You can see the question here, the question, and explain, and the correct option, the correct answer is also in this PDF. Okay, we have the correct answer, both the theory, both the practical, we have it in this PDF. So the theory is question 1 to question 12. So we see these are the options, these are the answer to the objective. You can say it is well explanatory. You can say it is well explanatory. So in case you need the PDF, you can let me know in the comment section. In case you need the PDF, you can let me know in the comment section. So don't forget to share, to give a like to this video and share with a friend. God bless you guys as you do so. Go to the comment section and say past question if you like to download this past question. Thank you. Shall meet in the next class.